Diana, can you take the screenshots of the screenshot of us doing this? Will you be able to take a screenshot of us doing this?
Yes, I will.
Thanks. I took one, but I can't do that now.
Look into the camera, Mark.
I got 3 screens. I'm trying to figure out which camera to look at. Hey, Dave.
Welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody to our session on virtual reality and virtual mobility. Welcome to everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to everyone. Welcome to everyone on our session about virtual reality and virtual mobility.
We'll get started.
Yeah, let's wait another 1 minute or 2 because we are still having people who are joining us.
Okay.
Welcome to everyone. Welcome to everyone to our session on virtual reality and virtual mobility. Welcome to everyone on our session. So Mark, let's start. So welcome everyone on our session about virtual reality and virtual mobility. I'm Diana Andone and I'm coming live from Timișoara, Romania, from the Polytechnic University of Timișoara, the second largest university in Romania and the largest one in technical studies. And Mark?
Good morning. I'm Mark Frydenberg. I am a senior lecturer at Bentley University in Waltham, Massachusetts. And Diana and I have been working on a project that we call TalkTech for the past 10 years or so. And it's evolved over the years as a way for students to extend global learning and learn about each other's cultures as we go through. So we'd like to spend a little bit of time with you this morning talking about what we do, get you involved in our work a little bit, and move from there. So you've read the abstract about our presentation. As international experiences are not necessarily possible because of the pandemic, we wanted to talk a little bit about how our project might involve using virtual reality to create enabling global learning experiences that are meaningful through creating shared virtual reality scenarios. And we're going to ask you to get involved in what we do today by downloading an app or 2 on your phone so you can experience some of the work that our students did. And we'll also talk about how some of the tools we use for creating virtual reality experiences and give you a bit of a chance to, as I said, try this yourself. We'll talk a little bit about some lessons we've learned along the way, and hopefully we'll have a time at the end. We'll make some time to discuss how our project might be a model for other work that can be done in other disciplines. To get started, we're going to put you to work for a bit. We're going to ask you to participate with us by going to your favorite app store and downloading either of these 2 apps. One is called CoSpaces, and the other is called Blipper. And these are apps that you can put on your phone. And then what we'll do later on in our presentation in a few minutes is put some codes up on the screen that you can enter into these apps so that you can see examples of some of the student work that they've done. So the apps we'd like you to install again are called CoSpaces and Blip AR.
Both of them, Mark? Install both?
If you want to participate for full credit, you should install both of them. For partial credit, you can only install one. So a little bit about us. I teach at Bentley University in this Computer Information Systems department. I'm the director of the CIS Sandbox, which is a technology social learning space that you see behind me virtually. And a lot of my work lately has been in technology literacy and new technology. Diana?
Yes, and I'm Diana Andone, as I said, coming from Polytechnica University from Timișoara, Romania, a large city in the west corner of Romania. And I'm a senior lecturer and associate professor, in fact, in multimedia, interactive design and UX and UI. And I'm also the director of the e-learning center. So you can imagine a very busy person as we cater for the whole 20,000 students of our university who are fully online now, as we teach fully online this semester.
So this is where we usually are, and this is where our universities are located. And our project has a website called TalkTechProject.net that you can scan the QR code in the bottom of your screen and bring up to learn more about what we're doing, or enter TalkTechProject.net in your browser.
Yes,
and
yes.
Okay.
So something about how we started. We met, me and Mark, at a conference in Amsterdam in 2008. And I was already doing some projects about what we call here in Europe virtual mobilities and virtual campuses, where we had students coming from different universities from Europe working jointly together. And we came up with this idea of trying to put students to work together in an international project, which is across the ocean. This is how we call it initially. And our first project for the first 2-3 years was much more simple, involved only some ThinkLink, if you know that tool, where the students had a topic, they needed to research some information and to find some data and videos and images about a piece of technology, and then write jointly in groups about that technology. We evolved from that, and in the last 4 years, in fact, 5 years now, we are doing things with AR and VR, with augmented reality and virtual reality. And the whole idea is based on collaboration. So we want the students to collaborate as much as possible, because both our students from both sides are coming from information technology background. My students are a bit older. They are usually in the 4th year of studies in engineering. They study about information technology in engineering and information technologies here in Romania. And Mark's students are usually in the 1st year, seniors in the 1st year, when they started studying about information technology. The idea of the project is based that we are both coming from 2 regions which are very well developed in IT. And nowadays in IT, everybody needs to do a lot of global activities, and it's quite difficult to do that global activity once you finish your university degree, if you have never experienced during your university degree that sort of work, like where you put students to work globally and to find their own space. What we always encourage our students to do, beside of the use of technology, is to find means of communication, to find a common ground to communicate, to share information, and to do their research jointly, because all the time the project which they need to deliver and the deliverables need to be a joint work. There are usually 2 Romanian students and 2 American students. They are not always only American, because the American students from Bentley University come from all sides of the world, but we call them American students, and they need to do the project during a period of 6 to 8 weeks. When they need to work together, we usually allow them to have also a common space in a learning management system which we provide to them, so they are able to share information there during forum, in blogs, and also to put how to say, their research jointly together. And we give them some brief information also how to use different pieces of technology. So the project goals is always to develop their digital literacy skills with the use of ICT, to increase their cultural awareness and the impact of globalization, especially in the area of technology and information. And recently, as I said, in the last 5 years, to use a critique view over the virtual reality and how that can have an impact in everyday's life. Because we recently have been focusing on trying to have subjects where they put a similar topic, and they need to find, how to say, identical or almost identical scenes from both sides of the ocean, also from Romania, from Timișoara, and from Boston. So in this case, for example, like in this video, you will be able to see, like we asked them to identify a mall, a shopping mall, and then to share their experience in a shopping mall. And they can jump, there is a gate where you can jump from one side or the other of the ocean and see if the shopping mall experience is the same and what are the differences. So they play a bit with this virtual reality tool. This is done in co-spaces. And they also need to do something with augmented reality, usually using Blipper, at least in the last year. And maybe the next slide, Mark, please. Also in the next one, you will be able to see that we asked them to, you've gone one too far, Mark. Or is the other video, which, because we asked, yes, this one. We asked them to see also some outdoor spaces. So this is the idea of a market, how it is a Christmas market and the market, because it's usually before the Christmas season, and they need to point out the differences and the similarities between the two countries. So it's also quite a lot of cultural or touristical information about what they were doing. We usually select between 15 to 18 different topics, and the students select which one they would like to do, and they need to develop also VR and AR project. So next slide, Mark, please. Now. Yes. So what is the project-based learning approach we are developing? Because the background theory in learning, which the entire TalkTech project is based on, is project-based learning, connectivism, and collaborative learning. So these are the three theories which stands behind this idea of the virtual mobilities between international students. So they need to introduce their how to say, a concept of how to use AR and VR in business, because we want them to encourage also to have some entrepreneurial development during their life, to see that it's not so difficult to start your own company and to use new technology and to work globally to produce something which can be a fun product for others to use. Then they need to create the artifact. So these things which you are seeing here, the AR and VR things, and then they need to synthesize their information and their project work and the development and the research which they were doing in a blog post and also in a project report. And then they need to apply all of this technology, because based on the statistics which we are using with them, and also the questionnaire and the focus group interviews which we are using at the end with our students, they need to use between 14 to 20 different tools to produce this and to communicate and to work jointly together. So they need to apply different technology in different contexts, and they need to take their own decisions on which technology is the best and when. And obviously, they need to work as in an international team, as equal team members. They need to find their space. They need to find a schedule for synchronous communication and synchronous meetings. And they need to agree for the final product. Next slide, please, Mark. So if we are looking at the topics which we had in the last years, they are all based on the idea of healthcare, entertainment, real estate, tourism, advertising, automotive, education, retail, sports, and marketing. And they need to identify a common subject between Timisoara and Boston and to produce their own augmented reality and virtual reality artifact, and then to create the scene which will convey a common story between them. So it's also the idea of digital storytelling involved into this. Next slide, Mark, please. And the steps which they will need to do to be able to create that are the similar steps which we are presenting to you to encourage, in fact, you to try a global learning perspective, especially during this period of quite stressful times for all the educators and for the students too, to try to give them a global perspective on their learning and on their projects. So they can, you can find identical or similar groups, even in United States or abroad, and then you can encourage your students to do a project jointly together when they need to blend technology and culture. Then you need to present to them to some tools and to a clear artifact, and then they need to try those tools by themselves. And this is what we are going also to do now in this session. And then they need to learn different lessons and different ideas on how to do that. And we will speak about that during this session. And then it's also your turn to do that into your discipline or with colleagues which are teaching or having similar interest either in the United States or around the globe. So these are the apps which we are asking you to download to be able to see the information which is coming there. Mark?
Okay, so let me begin by giving just a quick update on a reminder about differences between augmented and virtual reality. Augmented reality is mixing the real world with virtual content. You can see in the screen shot in the corner, you're putting your tablet, your phone in front of the picture and images are being superimposed on that. Whereas virtual reality usually requires a headset of some sort. Google Cardboard is cheap and easy, or on phones, you can hold up your phone and spin around or spin an image around. And it creates an immersive virtual world where it's hard to tell what's real and what's not real sometimes. And we focused on creating virtual reality using a tool called CoSpaces and augmented reality using these tools. In the example that we're showing on the right, a student scans the image of the movie poster, and then on her phone up comes information in the website about that particular movie. And so that's an example of augmented reality. Here are 3 tools that we've used for having students create augmented reality. The one I asked you to download today is called Blipper, and I'm going to show you an example of how that one works now. One of the topics that we had the students look at was real estate, and so they found a real estate listing for a house. And in the Blipper app, what you can do is click the settings button in the top left of your screen. I can't show you this because my phone goes away. And then you'll see in the middle there, it says enter test code. You can tap on that and then enter the code number 1321459 and then confirm. And it should look like this. And so again, you're going to enter the code 1321459 inside the Blipper app. If you want to raise your hand if you're following along with us, I'll know when to go on. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is hold your phone up to the screen where you see the picture of the house. And there's a button that says tap to scan. And when you do that, you should see inside information about the house. You'll see the cost of the house. You'll see what rooms inside the house look like. You'll see a picture of the bathroom and the living room and the bedrooms. Again, so students would create similar pictures of housing opportunities in both countries that they could share with their partners as a way to understand or learn a little bit about real estate, for example. I don't know where in Boston this house would be because it would be a fortune. I don't know if this house is in Romania either, but this is an example that the students created. So if you got this working, Send us a note in chat so we know that we're doing.
Mark, can you go back a couple of steps? So once you enter the code and you press confirm, where do we go next?
So after you enter the code and you press confirm, what you'll do is put your phone in front of the picture of the house, and there's a little button at the bottom that says tap to scan. And click on tap to scan. And then up should come additional information about the house. Dave got it working. Hassan got it working. So you're going to click the button that says enter the code here, and then there's a button at the bottom, the X, and then that when you put your phone up against the image, it'll say tap to scan. So that's an example of a piece that our students created that shows what this actually looks like. And for those of you who might not have it working, I'm going to leave that picture of the house up and show you what it looks like on my phone. Here's a screenshot I took on my phone with my messy desk. And you can see that we've got a picture of the house up here. We've got the rooms inside the house showing up all over the place. So that's an example of how they can then say, well, my house doesn't look like that. Let's go on to another example. This is more of an educational example. These students were taking a course, so they took a picture of their course textbook. And again, if you click the X, click the settings button, and enter the test code 120418, confirm that, and then scan the picture of the notebook, you should see some images about Bentley and links to the tutoring center and other information show up. And so that's what's happening on my screen when I scan the images. So these are ways that students can create augmented reality experiences by creating images that can be scanned, and then what they would do is then they would share their images with each other. The groups would then talk about what they see and the differences in their experiences that they've created for each other. Who got the house working or the notebook working? Thanks, Nicole. Glad you got it. Dave got it. Oops. So here's an example of what it looks like on my phone in case you missed it. There we go. It shows the phone and some of the Bentley icons, which would lead you to links to other information. Let's talk a little bit about CoSpaces. And again, you can scan the QR code for this particular virtual reality experience, or type in the URL that you see. You want to scan the code. To scan the QR code, you'd need a QR reader, or if you have a camera app that does this, as most phones do now, you would click the camera app and then scan on the QR code to the right of the picture. And then it should say open up the site in CoSpaces. CoSpaces is a interactive modeling editor for creating virtual reality experiences. And this one was taken in a pharmacy in Romania and in a library, or in an ambulance. You open up the app with CoSpaces, and then what you should see, if you click the play button, is on the phone, you'll see this experience that you can then spin around like this to look at the different, the scene in 360. And so this is an example of a scene. There's two scenes in here. One is in the back of an ambulance, and one is in a pharmacy in Romania. And there's a button you can click on that will transport you between both of them. Just to give you a sense of how these scenes were created, you can use a 360 camera, such as the one on the left on this slide. They cost about a couple $100 now. Or you can use a 360-degree camera app on your phone, and to take 360 images And this semester, what we're going to be experimenting with, since we can't send our students anywhere, is there are tools within Google Street View that you can go anywhere that Google Maps has Street View and use a Street View download program to take the Street View download picture as a 360 image that you can then insert into CoSpaces. And that's the way we're going to be doing our project this semester, so that because we can't really we don't want to send students out in places because of the pandemic. Then you can take to view the experience, you take your phone, put it into a Google Cardboard, and hold it up like a headset into the headset to experience that. Let me give you a quick look at how we set up CoSpaces. CoSpaces is a tool that allows you to create these 360 images. And so here's one of Boston Common. We sent students to public places in both cities. So this is the Boston Common, and they had to write dialogue and digital storytelling and information to convey the essence of the space. And so other than the flying reindeer, which I'm not sure why that's there, they got to show the space. Then they use some CoBlocks coding, which is a drag and drop style coding language to do the diagrams and the dialogues, and also to switch between the scenes. So they can easily switch from the park in Boston to the park in Romania, as you'll see in a sec in this video. When so you can see the swan boats, and then you click the button that says Juliustown, and then if only transport was that easy to get across the country and across the world, we could see an open air garden in Romania. And again, here's the code that's used for the students to interact with the avatars that they put on there to create the dialogue. If you want to play with this one, you can scan this. You can scan this QR code and play with this one on your own, and pop a note in the chat room when you got this one working. You can open it in either the CoSpaces app or a browser. In each case, each team created their own 360 image of their country's location, and then they had to provide some sort of a teleport button, whether it was a box or a flower or something they had to click on, that would transport them from one scene to the other, so the users could easily switch seamlessly between the two locations.
Okay, so let's see if the people have been able to scan this code and they are able to jump between the two gardens, the Boston Garden and the Julius Gardens in Timișoara, in Romania. So do we have some feedback from somebody? Oh, it's working. For some, it's working. Perfect. That's very well. Yes.
We got it working good.
Yeah.
Okay. So this gives you a sense of the kinds of images that they've done. And again, it also will show you a few other scenes of this. And again, the coding that they have to create is not terribly complicated, using a block-based programming tool like Scratch that allows them to create dialogue and create interaction with the. You can see the man with a suit is taking a phone call in the park, and so they use the coding language to interact with those.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a question? So you mentioned, especially on this one, is there a way, an easy plugin? So for example, if you've got, I didn't hear if you said, if you've got something like an Oculus, is there a way to sort of do an easy plugin into this so that you could use a nice headset?
CoSpaces, when you view the app, when you view this scene in CoSpaces, there is a little icon on the bottom that says headset. That makes it one of those stereo things, so you can use it inside of Google Cardboard.
Yeah, it's like a binoculars.
I haven't yet got this working in Oculus. I think we tried, and I'm not sure the best way to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But doing it it's certainly doable and easy to do in a cardboard headset.
Yeah, we tried to use it. We showed here last year during the Romanian Science Festival when we had a load of kids. And we had 3 Oculus Rifts, and we showed them the gardens, and we also have something about the squares and the cultural museums. So we showed that to our students there. So it was quite easy to be able to see that also.
Sorry, I got muted. If you want to try out the shopping mall example, you can click on this QR code and scan that one, and then you can go between the shopping mall in Romania and the shopping mall at Quincy Market in Boston. This is the same scene of the video that we had earlier on in our presentation. If you want to try this one yourself, and again, you can either scan the code and then move your phone around like this to see it in 360, or swipe on your finger to see it in 360 if you don't have a headset handy. The coding is, as I said, is not that complicated. They can add the avatars that they want from an avatar library, and then add motions like move or set the animation to say good idea, and use some of the preset animations to make this look interesting. And then there's a teleport feature that they can use by clicking on an object that will send them between one place and another. So those are just a couple of examples of the work that we've done. What we'd like to do now is talk a little bit about some of the lessons we've learned and how you might work on this yourself.
Yeah. So we always, during this project, we encourage the students to reflect a lot on what they've been doing and how this project affected also their perspective over technology, their perspective of working collaboratively in an international team, and also their perspective on entrepreneurial side. So if this is encouraging them to really took over and start their own companies. And these are some student reflections. Maybe we'll keep silent and try to listen to some of them. Mark?
Why do you choose the Sephora? Because we choose also
Yeah. I thought we were gonna do the same thing, so that's why we're like, oh, they're doing Sephora, so we're gonna go to the Sephora. I didn't know that we were supposed to do something different. I was like, oh, I thought we were doing the same store, but I mean, it isn't.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because it wrote like similar, so we thought like we do like the same thing, but like different
countries. Yeah. So,
and also like different like content on it. So like we thought about doing Sephora and like doing it the other way, I guess.
Yeah, yes. We choose Sephora because we are girls. Makeup, the boys can't have the opportunity to have in their projects this time with
Yeah, so you've been able now to see that they deliver, as I said, also a blog post, a video which needs to be synchronous video during the same time they are presenting their idea and their reflection, and also a report on their project work beside the normal questionnaire and focus groups which they do. What we also ask them to do at the end, and this is always a big fun for our students, is to present sometimes jointly. It's quite challenging to find a similar time because there's 8 hours between Romania and the United States, especially Boston. So we are usually quite trying to make our students to present jointly together. So the 2 Romanians with the 2 Americans to present their project at the same time. So Mark, if you want to go back a tiny bit on the tools used, as I said during the questionnaire and the interviews, we asked them to mention the tools which they were using and if they had prior experience on using those tools and which are the tools which are new to them. For example, they usually say between 16 and 21 tools which they use, and these are the most popular ones. And usually they have very little experience on augmented reality creation tools, but they have quite a high experience on Google Docs and Google Drive tools and document sharing, because that's what they use sometimes to do their research and to identify the common subject. And they also have very little experience on the online noteboards and apps. The Romanians have a bit more experience on that because they are much more senior students. They're in the 4th year of their studies and they're studying information technology as engineers. So they've been exposed to those tools much more than the Bentley one. And this is usually the most challenging bit of our students, beside of the difference on the time zone, is also a tiny bit of a difference on the perspective. My students, the Romanian ones, are almost graduating, and Bentley students, Mark's ones, are just at their entry in the university. Next slide, please, Mark. Mark, yes. So this is how we present sometimes, and there are loads of pictures which we take and a video about how they are presenting and so on. This is a tweet one. Next one, please, Mark. And this is how they present jointly. So the Romanian students in the class there, and then the Bentley students in their class, and they are presenting each taking turns on saying their part of the story. Is usually, as I said, big fun, and the students like it, and we encourage even more collaboration, and they seeing each other because they learn about each other and they find more information about that.
The magic of time zones. My
Yes.
class was held at 9:30 in the morning, and hers was held late in the afternoon. So
They did, yeah.
we were able to schedule a presentation where the students could actually share their work together. And I think there I am in the back.
And that's Mark, for example, in the back. This is my lab where the students have screens in both sides of the wall, and they are able to see and to share everything. It's a lot of logistics. I see the comments in the chat. It's not easy to be done. We are doing this. This is the 12th year when we are doing it. Our biggest challenge now is how to do this completely online, and what we are going to do when the students can't even go outside in some of the situations, or they are not in the same city because they haven't traveled to Waltham or to Timișoara during this year. So we just started this week the TalkTech project number 12 in 2020. So next slide, please. So this is the word cloud, and every year this is based on usability testing, where you add the positive and negative words, and the students need to pick the most, those which are the 5 ones which express most their feelings and their ideas about this project. And every year we do this, and we present it usually as a word cloud. This is the last year one, and where you can see that the most common word which they use is that it's collaborative. They find it also very accessible and attractive and fun, but it's also quite important to point that they find it stressful. It's adding a lot of stress for them to be able to adapt to new technologies, to a new group, to students which they never meet. They will never meet face-to-face, different time zones and so on. And this is also adding to the frustration and confusion sometimes during this project. We need to say that usually only around the week 3 of the project, they completely understand what they need to do and what they need to deliver, especially that we try to give them less guidance as possible. We try to give a sheet with a lot of information before, and at every class when I have a lab and Mark has his lab with the students, to encourage them for 5 minutes to speak about where they are with the project and so on. But we try to let them to manage by themselves also the research, their group workflow, and their deliverables. And this is how they usually come during the presentation time. And next slide also, Mark, please. And one of the most important bits which we would like to discuss with you now is what is the value which this project, or a global learning virtual mobility project as this one, can bring to what the AAC&U conference added as a value rubric. Sorry, apologies for my English now. So first is global self-awareness. That's quite obvious. The students are quite into understanding their differences, even their cultural differences, or their digital divide sometimes, or their access to information, or access to different tools, or how the university shape. We are a very traditional 100 years old university. Also, Marx University is 100 years old, but a bit more, how to say, flexible in certain terms than us, and also to understand what's their place into the information technology work market, how they are going to find a job, and how this job can affect their future, and how this project opens new doors for them. The perspective taking, as I said, and the cultural diversity are quite important aspects which the students which are taking part into the TalkTech always mention. I recently been in touch with students which were TalkTech students 5 or 7 years ago, and they said that they took the decision to start a new company and to make a product which is now very, very much in fashion now, in not only Romania, but in Europe and probably even globally, with the use of virtual reality tools based on the project which they were doing here. And they are not afraid anymore to go and find a job internationally, or to find colleagues with whom to work at international level. So their perspective has completely changed. It's always very interesting when our project is in an election year. It's the same this year as it was 4 years ago for both of our groups of students. And they also always end up discussing also politics and cultural diversity, and what is their social responsibility, what they do even as volunteers, or how they act towards the support of their community, and so on. The other important aspect which we need to mention during this project is that they apply a lot of knowledge, a lot of tools, and a lot of what we call digital literacy, or the 21st century skills, of the future skills, as they are also called in some literature. They all apply into this project. So they are becoming much more aware of themselves. They take decisions, they develop management skills, they develop communication skills, intercultural skills, collaborative working skills, and the remote working skills, all very important, I can say even vital during this time. Next slide, please, Mark. So
I also want to add that I think that the lessons, the skills that we mentioned will be important, and the way that this project runs this year will be interesting to see, because now everybody is used to doing what we're doing now, communicating online using different tools and meeting this way. So I don't know if that will make it easier or more complicated for our students who also have to navigate time zones and other concerns, which hopefully they're more used to doing, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. What we'd like to do now is talk a little bit about how you might adapt this project to your own school or your own learning scenario, and share some comments from students. So we'll put up a couple, I don't want to read these, but we'll put up a couple of comments that you can see about what some students said regarding their experience of culture. And as we do, we will welcome your comments and your questions, and specifically your ideas about how giving students the opportunity to create virtual reality experiences such as this might be a way to provide a global experience.
And you can also see here from this information which was provided by the students, that they are quite keen that they could be visiting virtually another place, in another city, in another country, and they were able to see the differences between the two cultures, and they learned something about that experience. And by the use of virtual reality into this project, it allowed them to have the feeling that they are really in that place. It's much more immersive, which is quite obvious, and so on. And they also found similarities, like similar shops, Sephora, Starbucks, and McDonald's, and so on, were quite prominent during the time. It's quite interesting because sometimes they go to sports, and in Timișoara and in Romania, football, but what you call soccer is very popular. So they usually end up with our side of football, which is soccer, and the American football in the same image. And then they try to discuss the differences between this and to try to make it, to learn something about the other sport on both sides. So it's not only culture and touristic places, and Timisoara is a very old city. Yes.
It's also globalization.
Yes, it's also globalization. So let's take some questions. Mark, maybe go back and let's have some questions and discussions before we go through this final one, what they learned about their culture. So I saw some information here that quite a lot of people were interested if this is a graded project. Yes, it is a graded project. We grade this project, and it's usually between 10 to 20% of their final grade, and both courses are courses on information technology. Mine is called multimedia technology, and
mine is an introduction to information technology course. And for the past few years, I've been doing this with honor students. In some years, we've done it with non-honor students as well. This year, we'll be doing it with a pilot group of students in our pilot IT course. We're going to try it there.
Yes, so the other question was if they do the same assignments for this project. Yes, the rest of the assignments in their course is not the same, and they're not similar courses. We both teach completely different one. I teach HTML5 and XHTML and APIs, and Mark teaches a bit more basic information on the information technology. But this project is the same, and both sides of the groups needs to do one single deliverable, which is a virtual reality and an augmented reality app, plus their report and their reflection on that, and the research which leads to the application.
We each grade our own students' work.
Yes.
Because the expectations that I have of my students as first-year students are probably different than what Diane would have of her students as in their last year of school, and I'm sure she doesn't. We compare notes on assignments and on comments on things, but we each provide the grades for our own students and their projects.
Yeah, Dave had also a question. He was raising his hand. Please, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. This is really cool. I really like how you guys mapped out, especially in the global learning, the rubrics, the AAC&U rubrics. So did you have any students from the comments that you put up, did you have any students who have, done a study abroad program and could compare some of the takeaways? Because some of the things that we saw, like what a dorm room would look like at another university or things like that, it'd be interesting to see if you had any students that had already had sort of a traditional, what we think of as a global experience versus this, and if you can compare.
Bentley students wouldn't have, because they're first-year students and they can't study abroad yet.
Yeah, for my students, it was the case sometimes, as in Europe, Erasmus exchanges are very popular. Probably you are aware of that, when students can take between 3 months or a full semester, or even one single month to study in a different university. Last year, I had 2 students, 2 girls, which were before that in a German university, and they found it quite interesting. And after that, they communicated, for example, with one of their German professors, which was working with one of my colleagues on their final thesis, on their diploma work. And they were encouraged to try to do it jointly between us, Romania, Germany, and United States, which was one of the discussions, but it's not really possible during this stressful time to add more stress. In about 6 years or 7 years ago, no, Mark, we were doing this jointly with Palermo, with University of Palermo from Sicily, from Italy. So we had students which were jointly Italians from there, Romanians and Americans doing a similar work, but then we were not using augmented reality and virtual reality. We were only using ThinkLink to create an interactive map of information for them. So yes,
our project has evolved over the years as technology has evolved. When we started this, it was just about, can we get people to talk to each other on Skype? Because that's what was big then, and now that's easy. So then we started having people work on creating some sort of a collaborative work product. And over the years, it's been looking at software reviews or apps or things like that. Lately, we've been doing either virtual reality as it relates to a particular industry or cultural location. This year, because we can't send students anywhere easily, our project is going to center around international companies, and we're going to ask them to use Google Street View to take a 360 image of the company's headquarters, and then in each country, and then or the company's office in each country through Google Street View maps, put that up, and then the dialogue will be to have them create a short report where they create some sort of a digital story about some of the company's products and services.
Yeah, there is a question from Courtney here. If this project, if we investigate, if it encourage them to travel abroad, we haven't really looked into it. It's quite difficult to find the students, especially mine are graduating after some years, to see exactly what is doing. But we only know anecdotically this, that in some years the students ended up meeting somewhere in Paris or in London, their groups. So some of the groups melt very well, they get to know each other very well, and they stay in touch also after the project finishes, and they sometimes meet in different places or in United States, but this is only anecdotal, so it's not really. So I think we have another question from Nicole or something like that.
Someone asked for our contact info, which I'll put up when we get to the last slide in a minute. Let's take a minute and talk about, again, ways that students learned about the culture of their partners. For all of them, augmented reality was a big thing. As you can see, virtual reality was an even bigger experiential piece, and the conversations that they had helped them experience culture. We found that by having them work on a shared project together, that process of working together really helped create that relationship between the students and their projects. Let's talk a little bit about some things that we learned along the way.
Yeah, so what are the lessons which we learned from these 11 years of doing this, and what we encourage you to do it? First is that when you extend the learning and the student experience with virtual mobility, it's really a gain also for you as a tutor and as a professor, but also to your students. They have a full new experience and a different perspective after you do a project which involves what we call virtual mobility. So they go and study and find out about things in different places, even if it is only in the same country, but even better if it is with students from universities from different countries. It requires a lot of planning and organization. So we have on our project website a lot of information about how we are doing it, what information we give them. We even plan and we suggest to students what activities to do every week to be able to fulfill this. It's not always the case that they are doing it, but we are trying very hard to encourage them to keep an organized diary of their activities. You need always to think about tools which tells a story, because this is as much as possible about project-based learning and digital storytelling. Because if you don't give them the tools and the idea and the description of their deliverable, which is telling a story, then it's going to be very difficult for them to work as a team and to communicate together, because they will each do their own bit and that's it. They will not really interact and work together. You always need to encourage them to have some cultural awareness. So this is why when we had the possibility of virtual reality and augmented reality, we chosen subjects which can be either similar or with some differences on both cities and both countries. So like sports and cultural museums, markets, and now with international companies, big names of companies, and to find locations in each country and what they are doing and what they are working with, and identify if there are differences or not differences between those companies. So try always to find a topic which will encourage digital storytelling and also some cultural awareness, because then it's interesting and they learn something new, and it's also encouraging this global perspective quite a lot. Behind synchronous communication, include this into the deliverables. Mark, I think you stopped the screen share. So include all the time the idea that they need to have communication and that at least one video be maximum of 2-3 minutes. We don't encourage them to do a longer one. When they jointly reflect on their product and their experience, it's always very useful for them to do. Mark, can you put the slides up, please? And then the last bit is encourage them to create a joint deliverable. If you really want them to work as a global team, then they need to provide a single deliverable, even if it consists on different aspects. So like an AR and a VR app or similar research, and then their own reflection video and posting. For example, we asked them 3 times during the 8 weeks period to post screen captures of how they met online and how they've been communicating online. So basically, that's our story. You find our information and also our data and things here, so you are able to see all of the information and how we are doing the project into the TalkTech project .net, which is the website there, and you have our details, so you can.
You confirm your email address is correct there? I switched because I had the wrong. I noticed an error earlier.
Sorry?
Can you confirm that's your correct email address?
Yes, that's my correct email
Okay.
address.
That's why I unswitched it, because I noticed a bug in there. So yeah, so we have a couple minutes for more questions.
Yes.
Could I ask the question?
Please.
Yes, please.
Yes, I put it in the chat. It's regarding dental, medical, and the nursing students that are doing hands-on procedures. If you have tried it, because I know in European countries, the students go to professional school straight out of high school. So they don't go to college first. So do you have any students that have been involved in this, and how do you protect the privacy and confidentiality of the patients?
I need to say I'm in a technical university. We don't do medical studies, so we never touch that subject. We only touch how to use technology in healthcare. So to find examples of technology used in healthcare, for example, once we had the students presenting on remote surgery and what's the technology behind remote surgery, because I have one of the topics which my students learn before in their second year of study is about some of them, not all of them, about technology which is used in healthcare. So
I think one semester we had students go to hospitals just to show in a hospital in both countries, but as far as specific patients, we haven't.
No, nothing. Yeah, we focus on technology because that's our topic. And for example, we encourage, and I know some other colleagues, at least in Europe, which were doing similar projects like ours in topics related to archaeology and to history. So when the students are studying history and archaeology, others when they are studying political studies, others when they are studying social entrepreneurship, to identify how similarities between social entrepreneurship, but I don't know any medical school which have followed or we are aware of at least that they've done it. So maybe you could try it. Why not?
Yes, because we cannot travel. That has put a hold on exchange students, for dental school. So when it's a theoretical subject, obviously it can be done easily, but when it's clinical, it's much more challenging.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about more logistics. So the students, once they create on the app right now, we were just using it, I guess, to view what you all had created. But once you put in your login and from like you create an account, I'm assuming it opens up other, possibilities to record and so forth. So does everything need to be done just on the cell phone, or can they move it to the computer?
No, they do all the development on their most of the development on their laptops. They'll take the 360 images if they're using those on their phones, and then transfer that to their laptop to do the editing of the VR or the AR scenes.
And so therefore that means that our students were collaborating with a university in Germany. So that means if the German students could take it, then the American students could manipulate it and back and forth, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just need to clarify. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and for us, that's a big piece of the technology literacy skills of working on and sharing information among different platforms and devices.
Thank you.
Yes, and I need to say that we have for CoSpaces a license or educational license, which we pay for. So they allow them to be in a class and they're allowing them to share much more easier information and scenes around that. Because if they use only their free accounts, it's much more difficult to have full access to all the avatars and the tools, and also to be able to share the scenes, because
And it's
there
also
are
harder for
different
us to
scenes.
be able to access their work.
Yeah.
The educational
And
license
also,
allows us
yeah.
to create a class they can all join and be part of together. So all their work is in one place for us.
Yeah, all the work is always in one place, either in CoSpaces or, for example, as I said, we use a website, a hub, in fact, a learning hub on open virtual mobility, which my university we developed with, through a European Union project, and we put all the students we enroll into that hub, and they have their space there with forum, blogs, and resources, and a lot of information. So we communicate much more easy with all of them, also online, and we use this from the beginning. So for the last 10 years, we use a learning hub as a place for all the students to have the feeling that they're all in the same class and in the same unit. Because it's easier also for us to mark it and to grade it, because if not, you will need to chase the students after everything.
So what I hear you saying is that we've made it more of an option, as this is one way that you all could show your collaboration in this, and for us as a COIL project. If we made it as an option, if they use these apps, then they won't have all the bells and whistles because they don't pay for it, but they could do a project or something. But if we wanted to do it where it was more institutionalized, meaning everybody in the class had to create the project through CoSpaces or Blipbar, then it'd be worth getting an educational license, right?
Yes, for us is a compulsory job. Yes, both groups of students is a compulsory activity. My only option for some of my students, because I have more students usually in my class than Mark's. Mark usually has between 30 to 40 students. I have around 80 students in my class. So for those which don't master English language, because they need to communicate in English quite well to be able to do it, for us, English is a compulsory language in my university, so they quite know it, but not all of them are very comfortable with that, and I cannot press them on doing a project in English when it's not.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm getting a note in my chat that says that our time, unfortunately, is coming to an end. We're glad for your comments. You've got our contact information. Please stay in touch with us and let us know how you adapt this in your own worlds. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much for coming, and please do this in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.